Can you share a couple stories that you never shared publicly from windstorm? Something crazy behind the scenes.
You shared a lot of those stories on your YouTube
I'm
channel.
not even talking about negative, but like something. Yeah, I have stories from my conference that kind of behind the scenes.
Well, I think you're going. I think you might be going in one direction. Look, when the storm, people watching this right now that maybe never went, or maybe they watched your video about how it was all party and all this. Look, you got to understand the early days of when the storm of what this was. You got to go back to 2013. This is when the storm industry was just becoming a definition by itself, an industry, because before that it was a bunch of mom and pops in the wild, wild west, and nobody talked to each other. So the first conference, it wasn't really a conference. It was in Phoenix, Arizona, at a hotel, and it was 50 of my buddies that were storm chasing buddies that got together,
to celebrate,
get together and talk about how to make more money, shooting the shit, going out at night, having some fun, drinking, partying, having a good time. And it was a boys club, okay? And it wasn't I wouldn't even call it a conference and trade show. It was a one-day seminar. The following year, we did it in Phoenix, Arizona again, and it got a little bigger. Maybe it was a couple hundred. And it didn't really blow up until the third one, which was that wasn't even real big, but it was a lot compared to the first two, which was Vegas, 2016. And that's when I named it Win the Storm. Prior to that, it wasn't even called Win the Storm. It was called Win the Game Seminar. It was based off my book. And that's where I started getting people in that I didn't know. But, even in 2016 in Vegas, it was still, there weren't a lot of female business owners of roofing companies in 2015. There's a lot now, and I applaud that. But there wasn't a lot then, not in the storm restoration space. So in 2016, we're in Vegas, about 750 or 1,000, maybe 1,000 people at that one in Vegas. All guys. And this is back, you got to understand, I was just coming out of storm chasing myself. Storm chasing is a different world than retail contracting. You're traveling on a road all the time. I was single, not married. I didn't have a child living with me like I do now. So I was living my life as an entrepreneur, but I was living, I lived by a motto of work hard, play hard. I worked hard and I was responsible in business, but when the business was over, I felt like we should have a good time. And those 2 years in Vegas, 2015, 2016.
Would you say they earned Win the Storm reputation early on?
Well, when I think about some of the rumors out there and some of the things that you did online, there was a period of time there in Vegas over those 2 years where, you're in Vegas, you're there with a couple thousand guys. There's gentlemen's clubs in Vegas, there's nightclubs, there's the lifestyle, there's gambling. But you're also coming off a 10-year run of storm chasing. And storm chasing itself is a lifestyle of traveling and being on a road. It's lonely. You're around strangers in strange cities. And so it's a lifestyle of what you would probably term a loose lifestyle or a fun lifestyle. And for me, coming out of the military, storm chasing reminded me of the military. You're mobilizing to a strange place or city you've never been to before. You're bringing a bunch of guys together. You're out helping a community, rebuild after a storm or catastrophic event, but you're also away from your friends and family. And so a natural recourse in that environment is to go have a beer, go have some drinks, have a good time, tear it up on the weekends, and come back and work hard on Monday. And so that was a lifestyle that I spent 10 years in. And so for me, when I launched, Win the Storm, and guys coming together in Vegas, the lifestyle didn't change. It was still part of, I don't think that lifestyle is wrong per se. I think it's something you go through as a man, you go through, and eventually you come to a point where maybe that lifestyle is not appropriate. Right now I'm raising a 3-year-old, for example, and that's not appropriate. But
let's talk about it really quick, because one thing is now you've been in a leadership position as a organizer of major event, and what I want to touch on is bigger problem. Like, first of all, roofing industry in general, we have a lot of drug addicts, alcoholics, right? Like not educated people, but that's one. But now you raising different people, like young people who make quick money fast, right? And even for people like I'm 40, you're 50, like even when you're established,
52.
Back then you were.
It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday!
It's been my birthday on Dimitri's podcast.
Look at that. Would you look at that? But comment below, happy birthday for Anthony. But the reality is, how many people have you seen that are not ready for that? I'm talking about young guys. Like if you take 22-year-old, give him $100,000 and send him to Las Vegas, wouldn't you say it's a recipe for disaster if you don't have a good mentor, if you don't have a good role model in front of you?
Looking back at it now, bringing a couple thousand young men to Vegas, it was a risk in, I think, in any industry for a conference. At that point of what I was doing with my lifestyle, I probably could have at that point. I'm talking 2000. We're talking 2016, 2017. Could I have been? Was I in a leadership position then, as starting to organize men in the industry for the first time? Yes, I was, and I probably could have made some better choices as to, okay, what are we doing tonight after the conference or after the award ceremony? New Orleans. I got the largest penthouse, downtown New Orleans. People over having fun, but this is after the conference is over. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but you're right. If a 25-year-old entrepreneur was to come hang out and he sees different leaders like myself and, having fun, they might think that that's the only thing going on, that's a major part of the lifestyle. To me, it was a work hard, play hard lifestyle. So there's no bad intentions over it. It's just the life I came from.
Well, you did it probably for yourself. You have your friends, your buddies, you celebrating. I've been actually years later when I started my conference, I went the same path, like scaled back, but the same thing. Like first conference, I remember actually first conference. At the end, we have this thing on a stage, and we were drinking a little bit, right? Like White Claw and stuff. And I remember we had the White Claw. I literally had White Claw on a stage. It's first year, I'm on a stage, and people criticize me for it. And rightfully so. And I would, never did it again on the stage later. You adopt, you grow. But what's funny? I was watching CrossFit games early on. So CrossFit as an organization, the sport is like 15 years old, right? You watch early CrossFit games, like get-togethers, like where athletes from all over the country gets in, like wins the prizes for like games. They have a beer chug contest. Like you do burpees and you do beer chug. And I'm like, even CrossFit, like when it's like, I'm talking about Rich Froning, who is like role model and he won like later. And I'm watching it because there's a factor when you get with your buddies, you have one mission, you have one thing in common that all you do. And there's only so much you can consume as far as like knowledge goes. You can't be in the classroom all day and it's like, oh, great, you're a roofer. I'm a roofer too. Great. Now what? Now let's have a beer, right? And that's what I feel like in every, but I feel like as a leader, myself, as you as a leader, we have greater responsibility to be careful, and be responsible for the people that we lead. And I was so like today, I'm not going to drink with the fans. I'm not going to drink with I'm not going to go to the party. I'm going to say, excuse me, I have places to be. I don't want to influence people in that way. And I want to show them, I want to be a better leader. Because when you have 2,000 people looking at you, you're responsible for them. And I've seen, in those who follow me, the same thing, like what I did. Oh man, that's because of me. They're doing that. And I was not happy with it. So.
Well, we had an instance, something and again, you don't necessarily directly contribute to these things, but the environment does, and you have to take some responsibility.
Are you talking about
Well, we had an instance in, I think it was 2016, where a guy, he's from Minnesota, Dave Kuntz. He had apparently took some kind of drugs, not around me. It wasn't near me, but it was in Vegas. It was at my event. And he, I don't remember the whole story, but he jumped or fell or was chased by some police, jumped off. He ended up in the emergency room. He almost died.
But I remember it was someone did die from overdose or something too, like at the conference. I don't know, like if you remember or not, but I remember rumors like that.
There was actions that happen in these things that I might not, like Dave, wasn't directly involved in that situation, but it still happened during your show, and you still feel a personal responsibility. It was that year actually that I decided to tamp things down in terms of, the aggressive industry award night party where we rented out the whole second floor of the nightclub of whatever that was in Vegas. You had 300, 400 guys up there having fun and a VIP bottles. Look, some people look at it, they go, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fun. That's in Vegas. But what happens in that environment? People are drinking, and some people do have drug addiction problems. Some people do take things to another level. You're still part of, you're right. I was part of that, and I contributed. So I made a decision that following year to start to tamp some of that stuff down, and by by Fort Lauderdale, we didn't really do anything fun like that anymore at the end. But
seems like you didn't have anything in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Nothing happened at Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale was all content, boot camps, and training. Not a lot of fun. But look, there's a learning lesson there. But I also don't want to condescend. There's a lot of condescending, especially in our industry for some reason. More so than I see in other places. I don't want to condescend people that are making those choices on their own, being that I think that, and I don't want to say men because this includes women, I think everybody's going through a bell-shaped curve in their life. And I think, like for me, I wouldn't necessarily go back and change things I did in my life, but I do look back and recognize that I could have done things a little differently. But I lived a certain lifestyle because that's what I came from. I grew up in a lifestyle like that. I grew up a certain way, and I didn't know other things. Okay,
and so you attract people who are similar to that as well.
Yeah, and I still do believe in. I think when you're in your 20s and 30s, work hard, play hard. You should have some fun and make some mistakes. Okay, you can't start off an adult life and live a perfect lifestyle of astuteness in every kind of way. So you're going to make mistakes along the way. Okay, and I'm not taken back from what I said about regret. What I'm trying to say is, I'm never going to sit back and judge people for how they live their lifestyle, because everybody could be judged for something. And I certainly would never, I've made it a point never to say things online about people or gossip. I might say some side conversations to friends, but putting that out there, because A, I don't want that done to me. And B, I just don't think there's time in life to sit and judge others. I think people learn those decisions on their own. And make those decisions when it's appropriate. Now, with that said, there are people, and this is where I've had a little change of heart this last year. I've always looked at, in the past, having fun, work hard, play hard, partying, as a cyclical thing. Meaning, if you work hard, you should enjoy life and have fun. That's why we're Americans. We're here to have fun and make money, have fun, and live your life to your fullest and all that stuff. But there are people that have issues, okay, and drug addiction issues and alcohol issues. Now, I still enjoy having a drink or a whiskey once in a while. Peanut butter whiskey. I don't drink every day, maybe once or twice a week. I've never really had a problem with alcohol. I had a little problem at a time period, especially with all the road tours and stuff, of Adderall, okay? Oh. Not a point where I had to go to a hospital or anything for it, but you start taking a substance that keeps you moving, shaking and moving, shaking and moving. Some people, college students, have a problem with that role. You start taking something and you could become you inadvertently you're addicted to it, or you do it. Now I don't do it anymore, but for a while there, that became an issue. Now there's other people that have other problems with other drugs that some people might call recreational. Smoking some weed might be considered recreational. Some people smoke weed and they can't move off this chair and they're dysfunctional. Some people get addicted to cocaine. Everybody could be addicted to, get addicted to something. So it's not fair to me to say, hey, everybody work hard, play hard, and not acknowledge that there's people out there in pain and something could happen because something you consider recreational, they have a problem, they become addicted to it. And where that really came to fruition to me was, my 3-year-old daughter's mom, who I have custody now, developed a very bad drug addiction.
Oh, wow.
A really bad one. I think it was meth or something. And pursued a lifestyle where she couldn't take care of her daughter, in which case, a year and a half ago, I became a full-time father almost overnight. Not that I wasn't accustomed to being a dad, but being a dad 2 weekends out of the month or having 50% custody with nannies is quite different than taking on a 2-year-old with no full-time nannies, almost overnight out of the blue, and being granted full custody by the courts, saying, hey, you're the last in line, you're the last line of defense. So that's where I started realizing that, hey, there's people that have real addictions out there that check people, that affect people's lives around them. And then you start thinking about the things in the past that maybe what I thought was fun or recreational to somebody else could have been life threatening.